My name is Mark, a recording angel. I've been observing this earth since the dawn of creation. The Most High has asked me to share my recordings with you. The following are my records of humans during the fascinating times when the desire of ages, Jesus the Messiah, came to this earth. And they're collected in this book, Victory of the Warrior King, the story of the life of Jesus. If today's recording contains situations which might be uncomfortable for younger listeners, I will mark the video with the words parental guidance recommended. Levi, October, small town in Judea. Mother walked into the house and stepped over to the brazier to warm her hands over the coals. "It's a boy," she announced. Levi sat up and rubbed the sleep from his eyes. "Good for Zechariah," Father commented. Mother snorted. "Good for Elizabeth, you mean? It was a long, hard labor, and she's an old woman, yet she bore up well, and the child is strong and healthy." "That's wonderful," Father said, pulling on his outer robe. "Come on, Levi, let's go congratulate Zechariah." Mother had been baking all morning, and Father had purchased a gift in the marketplace. Levi could hardly contain his excitement. It was the 8th day after the child's birth, and the infant would be circumcised today. And while the baby might not think highly of that, it would be reason for a party for the rest of the village. They were all invited to Zechariah's and Elizabeth's home to celebrate. It had been traditional to name the child at circumcision ever since Abram and Sarai had received their new names at Abram's circumcision. "What do you think they'll name him?" Levi asked his father. "I think they should name him Zechariah." "Why? It is not common around here for babies to be named after their fathers if their fathers are still living," Levi observed. "That's true, but Zechariah is an extraordinarily good man, spoken to by God himself, or at least an angel of God, and it would be an honor for any child to be named after him." "That's a good idea," his son said. "Too bad Zechariah can't speak. How terrible it must be not to be able to tell people about everything that has happened to you, or to name your own baby." "He can still name the baby. We have the little wax tablets for him to write on with a stylus, so he can still voice his opinion, just not as loudly as you do." Levi laughed. I laughed too. The party was magnificent. Levi had eaten until he was sure he could not hold another mouthful. The baby's cries from the circumcision ceremony had quieted, and he too was as full as Levi and snoozing contentedly in his mother's arms. Servants continued to bring trays of food to the already full tables, and the men gathered around Zechariah, congratulating him and giving name suggestions, while the women commented on the baby's size, how much hair he had, how strong and healthy he seemed, and then compared him to their own babies. Suddenly, the other guardians and recorders backed up in respect. Gabriel, the highest-ranking angel of our order, had come to the home of Zechariah and Elizabeth. I had heard him speak to Zechariah and strike him dumb in the first place when the priest had expressed disbelief at the thought of having a child when he was so old. In addition, Gabriel had revealed the Almighty's plan to Mary and received her agreement before the Holy Spirit filled her with the child. Now Gabriel was here at the party. The humans continued their chatter, oblivious to his presence. He stood before Zechariah. Everyone continued suggesting names. "I tell you," Levi's father insisted, "he should be named Zechariah after his father. It would be an honor to any child to carry the name of such a man." "Yes, yes," the other men echoed. "Zechariah it is. We're all in agreement." The old priest shook his head and groaned. It could have sounded like, "No," but we weren't sure. He started gesturing wildly. No, don't do that," Levi's father interrupted. "Here, let me get you a writing tablet. You can write it for us." Someone brought the tablet and pressed a stylus into Zechariah's hand. Carefully he wrote with his shaky hand on the wax surface, "His name is John." "John?" Levi's father asked incredulously. "John? There's no one in the family named John." "No, there's not," Zechariah said. After a moment of silence, everyone broke into a babble of excitement. "He spoke! Zechariah's talking!" "What did he say?" "Something about John." "Who's John?" "The baby." They fell silent again. "The angel told me," the old man began shakily, and then his voice became stronger and more clear. "The angel told me his name should be John." The crowd broke into cheers, then fell silent again. Gabriel turned and, saluting the rest of us, left the building. Zechariah seemed almost aware of his presence. Gesturing at the crowd of humans, he said, "I've been so eager to tell you for all these many months. You must listen. The Messiah is coming." "Is John the Messiah?" the people asked. No, the old priest protested. "He's the one to prepare the way. My son will be the Elijah we've been waiting for, but the Messiah is coming. He is soon to be born." The people shouted cheers again. "The Messiah will soon be born." "The Messiah, that's wonderful. He'll get rid of these Romans." "He's only going to be born," the old priest managed to interrupt. "You have to let him grow up first." "But it'll happen in our lifetime." "This is wonderful." As the crowd continued to chatter and speculate, Zechariah rose from his seat and moved to where the women were. "Elizabeth," he said. Her jaw dropped in amazement and she stood. Turning to her guests, she said, "Please continue with the feast. My husband and I must talk." Levi smiled as he watched the two of them, cradling their sleeping son between them, walking a distance away where they could speak privately for a few moments. The boys started to follow. "Come on, Levi," his father called. "Give them some time. They haven't talked in a while, at least not Zechariah. He'll probably be excited to get some words in after all these months with only Elizabeth being able to express her opinion." Rachel, Nazareth, sometime later. Rachel watched as her friend Mary trudged slowly toward the well, carrying the family's empty water jar. Her gait was awkward as she tried to walk, leaning backward to balance the weight of her unborn child, as well as the heavy clay vessel. Rachel set her own jar down and rushed over. "Let me carry that for you, Mary. You're getting too big to do this. Can someone help you?" "I'm fine," Mary protested. "Really, I can do this. Women have been having babies for thousands of years. I can do this too." But her voice sounded a little shaky. "Well, I will do it for you today," Rachel said firmly. She set Mary's jar down next to the well as they waited for their turn. "Mary, you've been growing pretty fast there," one woman snickered. "But don't feel bad. The first one can come any time. It's after that they take 9 months. The women all laughed. Mary's face reddened. Her eyes met with Rachel's briefly, and then she stared at the ground and said nothing. "Oh, leave her alone," another woman said. "It's not the first time something like this has happened around here. Give her a break." Soon they were chatting about other things. Rachel carried Mary's water jar back to where she and Joseph lived with his children and an aging mother. "They can be so heartless," the other girl said when they were out of earshot. Mary nodded and replied, "Well, Joseph and I have bigger problems than that right now." "Oh, what's the matter?" "Caesar Augustus." "Yeah, well, he's a pain in all our sides," Rachel laughed. "What's new with that?" "What's new," Mary explained, "is he sent out that decree for all of us to be taxed." "Yeah, I know. None of us can afford his stupid taxes." "It's not just that. Everyone has to return to their hometown to pay it." "So?" Rachel said. "That's here, isn't it?" "Well, for us it used to be. Now I'm married to Joseph and his family came here from Bethlehem. He has to return to Bethlehem to register and pay his taxes there." "But that's a horribly long trip from here," her friend protested. "You have to either cross Samaria or follow the Jordan Valley. Either way, it's a long, rough trip. How are you going to do that? You look like you're ready to give birth any day now." Mary sighed and then smiled. "But you know what? Remember the prophecy, 'But thou, Bethlehem,'" Rachel caught her breath. "The Messiah! Of course, he's to be born in Bethlehem." She hugged Mary. "God is going to work things out, just like the prophet said in the first place. Perhaps that was a plan all along." And then she got a gleam in her eye. Wouldn't old Caesar Augustus be disgusted to know that the God of this ornery little bunch of people in Palestine, who he has so much trouble controlling, was using him to work out his plans instead of the other way around? The two girls chortled in merriment, and I joined them, recalling several times when the Almighty had used rulers, pompous with their overgrown egos, to implement his plans and his will on this little planet. This broadcast has come from the book Victory of the Warrior King by Sally Pierson Dillon, with permission from the Review and Herald Publishing Association. This book and the rest of the series, War of the Ages, can be purchased by going to www.adventistbookcenter.com or by calling 1-800-765-6955. I'm your narrator, Austin Backus, and this audio project is a gift to you from my free Christian book ministry, RXF 1888. Please visit our website, www.rxf1888.com, to request free Christian books for both kids and adults. And join us here again for more stories from Mark the Recording Angel.